Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network.
Hey, welcome to Geek Fruit Retcon, where we travel back in time to a previous episode from our inglorious history on the Geek Fruit Podcast. Happy listening, you nerds.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Geek Fruit. I'm here, my name is Tejas, and I have with me somebody who's not been here for the last couple of episodes, Jishnu. Hi!
Ahoy.
Welcome back, man.
Well, thank
Where
you.
were you?
I was busy.
You were busy?
Doing other things.
You're not allowed to have another job.
I made the conscious decision not to do this.
No, come on. What were you working on?
It involved a pig and
Prime Minister?
flight simulation and orange peels. I don't know. I was doing video things. I was making videos.
So for those of you who
people.
don't know, Jishnu is a very accomplished and a professional filmmaker.
It sounds so fake when you say professional.
I have to say it because
it's
there are a lot
true.
of... I'll tell you
it's
why.
true. I'm a professional filmmaker, but if you have to preface,
I'll tell you
he makes
why.
films professionally.
No, because...
It doesn't sound professional.
Because in this day and age, when every, Tom, Dick and
true.
Harry has a camera, you have to emphasize that.
This is true.
And, yeah, man, it comes from a source of, complete credibility.
So I was away, like you said. But I did hear the Fantastic Beasts episode. Before we get into this week's, I just want to make a quick comment about Fantastic Beasts. So I heard the episode just the other day.
Yeah.
I saw the movie late as well.
Yeah.
And I stayed away from all reviews and whatnot.
Correct.
And I definitely enjoyed the movie significantly less than you guys did. But then after hearing your episode on it, I was a little bit more excited about a couple of different things, especially with the obscurus and all that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the Grindelwald thing didn't fall flat for me, but it didn't hit me nearly as hard as it hit you guys because, just spoiler.
Spoilers.
Yeah,
sorry.
so I didn't know that Johnny Depp was. Rather, wait. I knew the Johnny Depp was in the thing.
Oh, you did?
I knew he was in it.
Oh,
right?
there you go.
And I knew there was speculated that he might be Grindelwald.
Oh, okay.
So the reveal obviously was like,
that's probably it.
I didn't know that obviously.
I was completely
Colin Farrell is Johnny Depp, but
unawares. In fact, and I'll just reiterate that. I mean, again, and though I did not know that Johnny Depp is Grindelwald, I was kind of and it was cool to see him. I was really sad to see Colin Farrell go
I agree,
because he was great.
I agree with everything.
He was great in the film.
My only biggest qualm with the movie, and I spoke about this with Dinkar as well, because him and I went and saw Arrival yesterday.
Which is what we're talking about
Which we'll be
today.
talking about
Yeah.
later. My biggest qualm with Fantastic Beasts, while I too am incredibly excited that it's new territory and it's adults and it's not kids anymore and it's not so childlike and it's got a really cool vibe and the whole 1920s thing is great and all that, I thought that a little too much emphasis was placed on look at these adorable creatures, which were
You're
beautiful.
such a manly man, Jishnu.
They were really cute. They were really cute, but I was like, I can only stare at you for 30 seconds because if I want to see cute things, I can just go on Instagram.
Fair enough.
And so,
and Dinkar had said that as well. He said actually one of the letdowns
the beasts
of the film,
were a letdown.
Well, yeah,
the Fantastic Beasts were not as fantastic.
Exactly, that's true.
They were fantastical, like everything in Harry Potter is fantastical, but they were not the crux of the movie.
I agree.
And kind of the problem with the film, which Arrival, here's a segue, did brilliantly, was the balancing act of there's a whole lot of things going on. And with Fantastic Beasts, while I enjoyed the fact that it was not at all what we thought the movie would be about, and it wasn't, really... It was marketed in a really interesting way in that we didn't get any of the actual elements portrayed to us in the teasers and trailers and whatnot.
That's true.
The Beasts aspect of it, which is I was banking on, it was meh.
But I believe the whole thing is
former movies. I'm sure
and apparently it's not going to
time.
be focused on the Beast or Newt Scamander, which actually is a bit of a shame. But it's going to move on. While we're on topic, though, I will read out an email from Richard Tripathi who wrote in saying really enjoyed Fantastic Beasts, our episode, and got to say I agree with you. The franchise has really got me excited after the disappointment of the Cursed Child. Now you and I both love the Cursed Child. A lot of people did not enjoy it.
Yeah.
We have an article on the website right now about how Fantastic Beasts redeems HB. Obviously, but that's from the opinion of our guest writer Mehavarsh, who's a big fan of Fantastic Beasts, not so much of the Cursed Child. Just moving on to Richa's points, she says, love the lead characters, Newt and Jacob were awesome. I gotta say, Jacob was really great. This is something we spoke about in our last episode. Also, did you guys not feel that the presence of Newt was sort of not that necessary? I mean, the central plotline of the Obscurus had nothing to do with him.
Absolutely.
And then even the fact that Newt couldn't save Credence made me feel that the course of the movie and the result would have been the same sans Newt. That's interesting.
So that's a very interesting
Except for
point.
obliterating the whole city. So
of course, but that's a very
that was the whole
interesting
thing.
point.
It was like two separate plots that kind of come
absolutely.
together.
Yeah. And that's kind of where the balancing act sort of fell apart for me. That was my problem. Is it like it wasn't structurally sound.
Her second point is, I did also, especially in the first half, feel that there was just too much going on in terms of too many parallel plot lines happening. And in the interval, I was sort of like, okay, what is the importance here? of the senator, for example, John Voight's character, Makuza. I guess that, I was thinking about that as well. Like, the killing of his son was pretty much only to show that he had a grudge against him, so you could kind of lead up to Ezra Miller being the Obscurus. Point number 3, dude, Youngledore, seriously, dad joke. That was a joke that I made. I was like, I want to see young Dumbledore. I want to see Youngledore. Number 4, thank you for saying that true geekdom does not reside in comics, because I haven't read any, but I'm fully cued into the Marvel and DC universe.
Likewise, man. I've read less than 12 comics in my entire life.
Okay, I think I've read a little more than that, but yeah, it's true. I mean, this is the point we made earlier, that true geekdom does not lie alone in comics. If you are a geek, you can do anything. So thank you for writing in, Richa. She's going to even find out about BBC's radio drama of Lord of the Rings, which I spoke about last week. So she's going to...
I need to look into that.
That's great.
I also want to say really quick, since we're talking about the realm of comics and how, I actually haven't read a whole lot. We just, as of like a few days ago, yesterday in fact, we got ourselves a subscription to Marvel Unlimited, which I cannot recommend to you guys enough. It is... I don't know why I didn't do this sooner. Like, I've been aware of it for about a year, and We've
been speaking about getting it also.
I was
for a while.
super hesitant about it, and we just bit the bullet. And it's stupid affordable, because it's we got it for $60 for an annual subscription. Right.
How much does that translate to? How much is that?
It's like
my math is horrendous.
3,700.
That's great.
It's like
that is solid.
A couple, just a couple grand, but it's access to literally 10,000 plus.
Wow.
The entire Marvel.
One of the the biggest publishing house of comics in the world.
And so the best thing about this app is that it's literally Netflix for comics, because the minute you read one issue, the last page is, do you want to read issue number 2? Yes, I do, please. And if the comic then says it's continued in another series, like volume 8 of this other series, click on that. All right, cool. If you want to backtrack because you haven't read issues 1 through 7, boom, it's right there. And so it's an endless box of everything that exists in the Marvel world.
That is excellent,
and it's $60 annually. So
and
if you're like me, in that you didn't have access and exposure to comics and you really want to catch up, which I'm doing right now actively, this is brilliant.
Yeah. And I believe there's also an equivalent for DC, which you also then get the Vertigo line and things like that. So yeah, man, you guys, if you are interested in reading comics, it's all available right now, online. So definitely check that out. We have one more mail to read before we get into Arrival.
Yeah.
This is from Nitin Gautam. I think this is one of my favorite mails I think we have ever received in the handful of mails that we have got during this show. Nitin writes in, and this is regarding our last week's episode, which was AI. We spoke with Amit. You were there for that, but we recorded that episode earlier.
Yeah.
Just finished your podcast on AI/machines. I have one question. Jishnu, this is going to stump you.
Yeah.
Who decides what is morally correct? ? I mean, is killing bad? ? Let me give you a vague scenario. Is killing bad? I just want to answer that outright and say, yes, it is bad. A man is trying to kill me. Full stop.
Okay.
Next line. A man is trying to kill me. He did something to my AI robot so that it cannot move. It is immobilized. The man holds a gun to my temple. The AI has the chance to shoot the man and save me, but he cannot shoot his body as he wore a bulletproof jacket. He can only shoot his head. What will it do?
What?
So I think okay. So Nitin, there's a primary fault in this. I'm gonna read it out again.
I don't even know what I just heard.
A man is trying to kill me. Okay, he did something to my robot, so he can't move. My robot cannot move, so he cannot save me. The man holds the gun to my temple. The AI has a chance to shoot the man and save me, but I thought he could not move. That was my principal error with this scenario. He cannot shoot his body because he wore a bulletproof jacket. He can only shoot his head. Actually, but technically, couldn't he shoot his body? Because then that would only immobilize him and not kill him.
Wait, is this the end of the email? Is that it?
He can only shoot his head. What will it do? Thanks in advance, Nitin Gautam. That's the entire email. Nitin, this is my favorite email. Sorry, it's not one of. It is my favorite. For the simple reason that it's got so many questions. More so than the movie that we're going to be reviewing.
Oh my god.
I have no idea what the robot will do. I wish not for it to be me, because I will not be able to make a decision in time.
You're on your own,
Nitin, if the guy was you, you'd be dead.
You're on your own. Sorry.
You're on your own this one. Yeah, sorry, Nitin. Yeah. But thanks for writing in. Please send us more of these questions. These are great. These are excellent. Thank you so much. All right. So that's that. I think quickly, just before we get to the episode, I just really want to say on the outset, we have a campaign running right now on Make My Merch for a official Geek Fruit merch.
See, now it sounds unofficial. When you say it like that,
well,
it sounds like professional and
all
official.
All the bootlegs, throw them out. I mean, we had a few which we used for Comic-Con, but this is the official one.
This is true.
And it's a simple one. It's a simple t-shirt with our logo and our website on it. If you're a nerd from India, we'd love to see you wear it and then click a photograph. So go on to Make My Merch, or go on to our website. There's a tag to the page, and on our Instagram as well. You can check it out, buy it in your size, wear it, take a photograph, tag us. That would be great. And it's not very expensive. It's around 500 rupees. So yeah, get that and do it, man. Just to be a nerd with us. It would make us really feel cool, and you as well, to be part of a cool community. Yeah, so that's that. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to get back and talk to each other actually, about Arrival.
Hello there, my name is Naveen Narona, and as a gay person in India, I get asked a lot of stupid questions.
Beta, is it LGBT or eligibility?
How do two men procreate?
Bro, is Grindr better than Tinder or what?
We answer all these questions and much more on my podcast, Keeping It Queer, where I talk to individuals from the LGBT community in India and learn about their personal stories. Catch all the episodes on the IVM podcast app or any other podcasting app you like. Till then, keep it queer.
Cool, we're back. We're talking about Arrival. Just before we begin, I want to know, did you guys in your What Do You Got Left 2016 episode?
Did you guys
because I can't remember what exactly you may have said about it, but I'd really like to know, what did you guys think at that point before getting into the thinking about the film?
We were excited about it in the same, or rather for the same reason that we were excited about Passengers, which I still am, kind of. Kind of. Like I'm saying kind of, because neither trailer did anything for me that left a lasting impression.
Okay, fair enough.
Because I saw them, so we did that episode like in early or mid-October, I think.
Just before the onset of all these films.
Maybe even like early September. So a few months ago, and obviously when I watched like 20 trailers back to back, I'm not going to remember all of them.
Exactly, it's true.
But that being said, the only thing I recalled about this film was like, it had Amy Adams, it had Jeremy Renner, completely forgot Forrest Whitaker was in it.
Yeah.
And I was like, the ship kind of is like a egg-ish. And that is literally all I remembered.
Okay.
And language, nope, didn't remember a thing. Plot, nothing. Pacing, or rather the vibe of it, nothing. I remembered absolutely nothing, which was amazing.
This is always a great
place to be.
Vantage point to be at.
It's a fantastic place to be. And I don't think we said anything of any real significance back then, because we didn't have anything to go on.
The only thing I feel like I had going for it this was definitely one of my lists of what to watch this year, because I've mentioned this earlier. Denis Villeneuve, director of some of the best movies last few years that I've seen. Mentioned this on the review on the website as well. He's made Sicario, which was fantastic, just like super intense thriller, and Prisoners, which I still feel is one of the most ignored, like most underrated films from that year. It was not even nominated for anything in the Oscars or any form of awards. Still one of the best performances I've seen Hugh Jackman ever deliver. And this guy's just generally a very good craftsman of like a film. Like he's just, and it's even more so apparent in this. So that's the only thing I was like, oh cool, this guy's got a new movie out and it's science fiction, so boom, I am totally watching this. That's all I knew about it. And the other thing, the whole what I call the Pacific Rim effect, which is that original science fiction movie coming out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still an adaptation,
but still it's
about
something we haven't, something we're completely unfamiliar with.
Completely, everyone is as well, and so that's what I was really excited about in this film. And safe to say that this little knowledge that we had kind of really worked to our advantage. It always does.
It always does.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's ever an occasion where I've sat down in a theater where I've been like, I'm so glad I know more about this.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I take that back completely.
For what? Star Wars? No,
the Marvel Universe. That's the only reason I'm like so invested in S.H.I.E.L.D. Because I want to kind of know more of what's going on.
Yeah, but like it's like the stories, you don't, I guess, you're right. Yeah,
because I'll put it this way. Okay, so before I get really into Arrival, I will say that last night, so I saw Arrival in the evening, and I came home and I immediately watched the latest episode of S.H.I.E.L.D. and they'd taken like a 3-week or 2-week break since Doctor Strange, because the last episode was before Doctor Strange came out.
Now it's after Doctor Strange.
And this was the first episode after Doctor Strange, right? So it's been a while since S.H.I.E.L.D. has come back. And between Arrival and this episode of S.H.I.E.L.D. post Doctor Strange, it was one of the best nights of like just science fiction, because to get back to the point of, I like being informed when I'm watching Marvel movies. S.H.I.E.L.D., like I said, this season, when I wrote that article a few months ago, I said that S.H.I.E.L.D. has done a remarkable job of being the only MCU property outside of the movie universe that is genuinely... And Netflix, that is sticking to its guns and like actually connecting everything together and having a direct correlation and being very aware of the larger universe. And in this case, I don't want to say what exactly happens because they literally go cross-dimensional.
That's amazing.
Like, within the first 10 minutes, boom, dimensions are a thing, and they don't talk about Doctor Strange, they don't talk about any of the actual movie stuff, but everything from the movie is relevant to S.H.I.E.L.D.
So, that's exactly what you said. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is the only show which kind of acknowledges that everything is going. Everything else, like the Netflix show, also they kind of distance themselves. In fact, they've had a few faux pas that way. Like in the Netflix thing, they say that Obama is like the president, but in the movies we know Ellis is the President Ellis because of Iron Man 3. So there's a lot of disconnect there sometimes, even though they drop these lines and stuff like that. But I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is the one show that kind of really ties it. Do they ever make references to the Netflix side of the universe?
They do. They've said they've like very casual throwaway jokes of like lawyer.
Oh, right. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, so as long as that's there.
But I mean, it's so tiny that it's not even worth mentioning. It's not even worth mentioning.
Feels like the most disconnected. I feel.
It's not even worth mentioning.
Cool. All right, so coming back, Arrival. Just straight up, I want to say this is one of my favorite movies this year.
Absolutely.
For the simple reason that this is what I really wanted Interstellar to kind of be, in the sense that an emotional journey told through the crux of science fiction, and there's something I wrote also on the website is that as you watch this movie, the more you kind of get deeper and deeper into the plot, the more trivial the aliens become, and the more trivial does this whole ship that has come down. It's not that important in the sense that it's really not. Unlike Signs, also a great movie. I really love Signs also.
I love Signs.
And again, that movie, it's really not about aliens at all. I mean, like this movie as well, it's really not about
it's a humanist film. It's more. It's
such a humanizing film, and it makes you feel so much more human than and not. There's space movies have that very, they try and they alienate you. I mean, if that's the word I can use. They make you feel very alone out here in the universe. But this one, it just makes you feel like, oh my God, everyone goes through the same thing. Even Abbott and Costello, the aliens in the film. You feel so much, you understand the real characters. So just a fantastic film that I'm very moved by. I thought this
was a far more delicate and fragile and very what's the word? Dexterous? Is that a word? Something dealt
something
with
that had dexterity.
Dexterity.
Sure.
Very similar to what Star Trek tries to do. It's the exact same optimistic outlook upon the grander universe, and the fact that the premise of the aliens coming is to teach us for the betterment of not only their own existence but also for us.
I thought
they're doing it to look out for us. And
I mean they have a vested interest. Before we get into that,
okay. But I don't want to get into we'll hold on to the plot for a second. Basically, I just loved the fact that this was not your typical movie about aliens with explosions, or it wasn't a typical movie about the end of the world, or a typical thing about saving the day and one
very refreshing,
sole hero. Because all those beats were there. The very premise of it, in terms of like a bunch of aliens come down and what do we do? And there's military uprising.
Exactly.
The way the first 5 to 10 minutes starts is pretty standard.
Yeah, it's realistic.
It's a very standard thing. Yeah, but then the whole thing being around our civilization and what we as a civilization need to do in order to sort of keep ourselves together, and we can only survive if we
are united.
Yes. That, I thought that whole moral uplifting spirit of it was so refreshing. Because
and it wasn't shoved in our face either. I love that it was not like, oh, this is what we're trying to say, that humans need to be connected. And I know this is the time in the world where it seems the most relevant. I mean, it always is going to feel like that. But it just... it was not shoved in your face because ultimately, it covers all that. It's very subtly tells all those those messages, but really comes down back to Amy Adams and beginning and end. It's like very much like the language that they speak is very circular. It's very complete. That it doesn't like the beginning and the end are the same. There's no conclusion as such because it's revealed that the conclusion is something that you have seen before, which is excellent. So just before, all this vague kind of ambiguous talk, let's just get to the plot of the film. Jishnu, you want to just tell us what it's about?
So we have 12 alien ships that come down out of nowhere with no introduction, and they just nest themselves above 12 seemingly random cities across.
There's a cool joke there. It's like, where
somebody sold a bunch of in like 1980s.
This is the only other connection that these places have.
So 12 alien ships that all look the same. These closed off sort of half egg shaped vessels
and they're dubbed the shells or something.
Something like that. They come down, and then obviously every individual country's military goes out and sort of tries to do some recon on them. And so the US military, one of the ships is in Montana, in the middle of this giant field in Montana. Forrest Whitaker, who plays Colonel Weber of the U.S. military, comes to find Amy Adams, who plays Dr. Louise Banks, who is a linguist at a university, and she's written several books on various languages, and she actually helped the U.S. government with a Farsi insurgent mission and something like that.
And
she
so
translated
she has some
something.
Clearance, basically.
So she has some level clearance because she's worked with Forrest Whitaker and the U.S. government before. So they come to her saying, hey, we like you, we need your help, because they have already established contact with the aliens, which is a very interesting place for us to come into the story. I was surprised at how quickly and how far we got into the conversations with the alien, no pun intended, because the minute that Amy Adams is introduced into the story, where we pick up, Forrest Whitaker and his team has been talking to the American ship that has landed on America for a few days, and their U.S. soldiers have had these conversations with these two alien beings who they dub Abbott and Costello, and they have a recording of their language, which is very whale-like noises. And Amy Adams
only the
says,
language, right? There's no
text, there's no physical communication, there's minimal physical communication. And so Forrest Whitaker says, I need you to translate this. She says, I can't do it unless I'm there. So she goes with Forrest Whitaker, who then introduces her to a colleague played by Jeremy Renner, Ian Donnelly, who's a PhD in...
He's a theoretical physicist.
Theoretical physicist. And the two of them sort of have to buddy cop this whole thing together and try to figure out how to communicate with the aliens. And Forrest Whitaker is the boss. And then the entire movie is basically about how the different countries are all on Skype at all times with each other and communicating about their individual conversations and sharing information back and forth. And as the movie progresses, some countries, specifically China and Russia, decide to cut off communication ties with the rest of the countries.
Yeah, because they're going to use a more aggressive force to kind of deal with them.
Right. And so Amy Adams is sort of the champion for we need to have a civil discussion with these people and not antagonize them at all, and no matter what, we need to figure out the language. That is the most important thing we can do, rather than show brute force, which is
like we have to give them tuitions.
Exactly. And we need to do mutual tuitions. And China and Russia are sort of antagonizing them, and that is where things go sort of tits up, because once they start antagonizing them, the aliens that are in China and Russia talk to the other aliens across the planet, and bad things ensue.
Yeah, but I mean that's pretty much it. I mean, there's no harm done. Like pretty much they come to Earth and they're just hanging out. Like there's no seemingly any kind of purpose at least in the beginning. And anyway, so that's pretty much the plot. I think. what was really, really great about it is that, like you said, I like that they kind of just skipped a lot of stuff which we, would take a lot of needless exposition. Like they'd already determined that this, gap kind of opens up every 18 hours or something like that. And I think the entire conceit of the film is that you can't physically interact. Obviously, I mean, they made it that way. You can't physically interact with the aliens, right? Yeah. It's this white wall, like this kind of really kind of blank canvas, pretty much, and upon which like a barrier where
which by the way, it's a quick interjection, is the most cliched alien science lab thing, like Independence Day.
Independence Day has done it, but like this still seemed like they were
every science lab alien movie has that.
Except it didn't feel like they were confined to it. It just felt like that is a very physical version of the metaphor of the divide between both of them, right? And and that's pretty much it.
But what I loved about it was that it wasn't a man-made thing. It's usually a man-made construct.
Exactly, yeah.
In that we captured the alien and we will this wall to be here because
we are
scared. The fact that the aliens, who we can get really deep into this, and I'm sure we will in a bit, but the fact that the aliens who have so much more power over us, over the humanity, they decide to put up this wall. Now there was speculation at the beginning about like, atmosphere could be different, they might not be able to breathe, we might not be able to breathe, something bad could happen, so kind of makes sense for them to want to do this. But the fact that the aliens are inviting us every 18 hours and saying, please come in and like let's have a parlay. The fact that they're doing that never happens. It's always the aliens being antagonized or the aliens antagonizing us.
The
fact that the entire movie is based upon the fact that these are just a bunch of random dudes that show up. They could have been just humans from another country. From another country. It could have been the story of King Kong, where you just go to this island and meet these, indigenous people, and you just like, all right, let's just talk for like the following 2 hours of this film. And that was it. It was the exact same thing. The fact that they were from outer space was completely inconsequential.
I agree. And what was really, really special also is that what I thought about the entire process of how then, so basically the movie is like, it goes into, say, half an hour of actual in-depth trying to understand this language and this communication when Amy Adams, kind of her character, Louise Banks, makes a breakthrough. They start kind of like, giving off this ink from their squid-like, palms, and like that forms like this a shape, which basically is not a letter, it's not a sentence, it's a meaning. It's an individual meaning. And I thought the way they handle language just generally, like the concept of it is something that I've never even thought about, that maybe a language could be like, and I think that's maybe actually some languages are like that. If I'm not mistaken, I think maybe it's Mandarin or Japanese. Is every letter is a
letter is a separate word. However, the script. I'm no expert on Chinese at all, but one of my best friends is a very well-read Chinese linguist, and he's told me that the interesting thing about Mandarin is that they have 4 vocal tones, and so the way they convey. Now, again, I'm no expert, but if I understand it right, it's that each word, while it is spelled the same, if it's said in a different tone with a different inflection, it has a completely different meaning. Like horse and love can be the same
sound,
kind of thing. No, different sound, same look.
Sorry, different sound, same look. Correct.
So,
the text form of it.
And to that end, the minute that China was one of the first guys that said, "Forget this, we're just going to try to fight them instead," I was like, honestly, if you asked me to like find somebody that could like figure out the code, like basically
probably be
Tom Hanks, basically Da Vinci Code a language, which is what was happening here. She was playing Tom Hanks' character. She was playing Robert Langdon of Science. I would have said, find a Chinese guy, because like the Chinese language is one of the richest languages.
It's the most complex, I feel. It's
so beautifully crafted. English, on the other hand, is pretty simple, and honestly, it has a lot of fallacies. English has a lot of fallacies that make no sense. That you just have to like buy into it because we said so, and this is the way that we've accepted it.
Well, that's for you.
That's the way it works. So anyway.
that is interesting that you know. And the other thing that it really opened my eyes to is just generally language. Forget the entire plot of the film, but the fact that what is communicated by word and what's communicated by text, and there's such a gap between that, that we don't even realize because we just take it for granted when we speak and we write. But I just thought that was brilliantly explained. Anyway, so as the film progresses, Amy Adams kind of starts to decipher piece by piece. I mean, they don't really get into it, and it's not really that important how she really understands what is what.
Yeah.
But the fact that it progresses naturally and scientifically. I managed to catch this one episode of this show. I don't know if you've seen this before. It's called Science versus Cinema, which it's like a web show. About 20-30 minutes, and they basically debunk myths, theories from science movies, and the guy hosts is an astronomer, so he's a legit guy. He's done Interstellar, he's done other movies. So he did for Arrival, and he said Arrival is one of the most accurate, even hypothetically, films, and to no one's surprise, because it just seems so realistic. They even got like legit astronomers, and they spoke to the linguist, who was a woman who Amy Adams' character based her character on. Yeah.
This is one of the most amazingly random things I found out last night.
Right.
So I texted my brother the minute I was done with the film, and my brother lives in the States, and he's engaged to this girl who is a linguist herself. She's in a master's program right now, getting a PhD. And I wanted to know, she's soon to be my sister-in-law, I guess, fiance. So I just texted him, said, hey, what did Carolyn think about the film? And he said, we haven't seen it yet. We really want to. Is it good? And I said, I absolutely loved it. He said, well, that's really cool, because her professor, one of her professors in Canada, was the professor that was the main consultant for this movie.
What is her name? This is some Cook, Dr. Cook?
I have no idea.
Because she's interviewed in this episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's great.
The most bizarre thing. I was like, that's amazing.
I need to
I need to pick her brain.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, this is excellent. Okay, cool. So I can't remember her name for the life of me, but so she's there on that episode, and she just speaks, and the fact that Amy Adams says, I'm so glad it was a woman. I had to understand what it is, not apart from just the linguistic aspect of it, but like, what is it like to be a woman in your industry? Because it's a very feminist movie in a strong way.
Yeah.
This movie also, I mean, the other part we forgot to mention about the prefacing of the plot is that throughout the film, concurrent to what's happening, there's a lot of memories, I'd say, that Amy Adams is plagued with, because she, right in the beginning of the first 10 minutes of the movie, it's kind of like the movie Up, which in the first 10 minutes you kind of see the life and death of her child. Basically that, she had a kid, she was a single mother, raised the kid, and the kid dies because of a rare, like a cancer, basically. Something terminal, where she knew that was going to be the case. And in more ways than I could imagine. So she's plagued with these thoughts, and there's one line that Jeremy Renner, which I think sets up the movie perfectly, which is that he says, isn't there something about, what people say is that when you learn a new language, your brain rewires itself, and your entire perception of understanding changes. And that is really the entire plot of the film, is that as Amy Adams kind of learns this new language and she gets more and more deeper into the understanding of it, she starts to remember different parts of her life. It's crazy.
She essentially becomes part alien.
It's like becoming alien. So basically, might as well just get into it. So basically what happens is that she starts to perceive time differently. She starts to become a fourth dimensional being, which is that she no longer sees time as a linear concept. She sees it as a non-linear thing. So she can see, and this is what the book, the novella which this is based on, is called Story of Your Life, which is very apt. Obviously, is basically that she can see now her entire life in a singular moment, in a singularity. So it's like she's basically Matthew McConaughey in Interstellar towards the end, but is that he can see everything. That's a very physical rendition of it, but this is very Terrence Malick kind of Tree of Life version of it, and it was brilliant. I thought the way they have just focused on like the face, that really shallow depth of field is something I wrote about.
I have thoughts on the face.
I really wanted to get into that, and I just so basically she sees time this way, and really this is also that we were talking about this before this episode. I really thought this was the kind of movie that I really wanted Interstellar to be, which is that it's an emotional journey, but told in a much more subtle manner. Interstellar leaves a lot of questions, and it's a much bigger film.
It's more spectacle.
More spectacle, which is what Nolan is good for.
So this movie was literally in every which way a short film that was extended.
For sure,
in
right?
every beat of this movie,
totally
everything reeked of short film. Not in a bad way, but it was just very blatant. And that whole shallow depth of field face shot was very frustrating after a point. And I'll tell you that. Before I saw the film, I was talking to my old roommate who had seen it, and he's not a filmmaker at all, and so I was very surprised that I told him, don't tell me anything, and we've seen it. He said, oh, I loved it. I said, great, well, don't tell me anything. He said, well, the one thing I do want to say is that there was this one shot of like her face that was really annoying. And I was like, what does that even mean? And within the first 30 seconds, I knew exactly what he meant of watching this movie, because I was like, yeah, okay, this shot is going to keep coming again and again. Yeah. And of course it came again and again. Now, the thing is, with a short film, since your time is not a luxury, right, you need to get stuff done and taken care of like immediately. Be very efficient with your time. So in a short film, when you have these shots that are like really tight and in the person's face, you're basically telling the audience, please drown everything else out. Pay attention to this person, what is going through their head right now. That's what I need you to focus on, because I need you to invest in this person, right? Now, in a movie of this length, which is 2 hours long, normally those kind of shots are very few and far between, because they're for like the most pivotal moments, or the moments that you wouldn't think to look at this character, because there's this giant explosion happening on the side. Well, let's actually focus on this person who's 50 feet away, or, on the other side of the planet, who's like feeling the force, and like there's a disturbance. That's why you do those shots. Now, the fact that this close-up was happening every 5 minutes. Initially, I was like, please, why is this happening? This is getting old very quickly.
Yeah.
And so, knowing that the reviews were so good, I was like, I really hope that something changes around. And I felt that feeling of, I see what you're doing here, and I don't like it, but I'm really hoping you're going to prove me wrong. Yeah. And he proved me wrong every single time. Yeah. And speaking to the fact that, you said that this, what was that show again you called? Science
versus Cinema?
Science versus Cinema, right? Yeah. So they said that it was very sound. Yeah. I think that this movie, much like with what Interstellar was trying to do, it did it far better, like you said, more delicately, because this movie seemed far more science than fiction.
It's more,
I think that's what bugs me. What bugs me in the best way possible, because once we finished seeing it, Dinkar and I were just standing out there on the street for like a good 10 minutes, just playing through everything in our head, and we still hadn't caught up with everything we'd just seen. We were still like going through it, and
that was the same effect that we had.
And so the best feeling was after seeing the movie, and I'm playing it back in my head, and you see the circle of the timeline, right? And you realize that you've seen the ending halfway through the movie.
Right technically at the beginning, like
the last thing you see is the death of a child, which is where we're left with her character, right? And so as this all playing out, what I loved was twofold. One is the fact that the fiction part of it, which normally in science fiction, like let's take like Star Wars, which we talk about all the time, you have to sort of completely, throw your inhibitions into the wind. Be like, hyperdrive is a hyperdrive, light speed is light speed, laser swords are a thing, cool, fine, laser beams, what, cool,
suspension of disbelief,
whatever, like you have to go into it immediately with that notion of like, I will believe whatever you throw at me. With this movie, they encourage you to speculate with them. Yeah. And I think the fact that while this movie has the grandiosity and the scale of Interstellar in terms of it's a global event, the fact that all these like really tight close-up shots were happening constantly for Amy Adams, we were never taken out of her head for more than a few minutes.
That's so true.
And the fact that it's just a one-person film for the most part, in a very short film way, you're only following this one-person story from her perspective 95% of the time.
Yeah.
I think makes it that much more plausible for us, because we are experiencing it through her
perspective completely. Yeah, definitely.
When the minute she's convinced, we are convinced.
Is so disorienting, because it's like all over the place.
Yeah.
So this is so why I think the whole shallow depth of field, all that stuff works. For this film particularly, and I totally get the whole short film aspect of it. Why I think it works is because it's completely relevant to the plot. It's not. It's not just like. It's not like Tree of Life, which is the thing. Tree of Life is trying to evoke emotions without earning.
I think I said this a few episodes ago. Tree of Life is one of the only movies I've ever walked out of.
So a lot of people are have different opinions on that. We'll save it for another episode. But so why this is not Tree of Life is because the whole point of showing you those shots earlier in the film, or is to show that this is how time is for her. Like, you are not watching a movie, then you realize towards the end. You realize you're just watching how she's perceived time straight through.
Because like it's the cliched method of storytelling with these flashbacks. Very much like take Gravity, for example, where you have two linear timelines happening at different points in time, right? You have her in space and you have her back on Earth. And then the only purpose of showing Sandra Bullock's life back on Earth is to sort of give you some like reason to care about her.
Yeah, no,
and
of course.
to have like a back, which is fine. That's nothing wrong with that, but it's not really exciting. And when we saw these constant flashbacks to a kid, my first thought is, please let this be something more than that. And it was so much more.
So much more. Exactly.
It was so much, and it was
so relevant.
It was
to the
needed.
plot.
It was not backing anything. It was essential.
It was not to just give, say, Benedict Cumberbatch, a cool character. He's witty and cool.
Right.
This is integral to the plot.
Absolutely.
I think, and the story and the theme of the entire thing. I mean, initially I thought, why did they change the title to Arrival? I was like, this is.
I'm actually very glad they did.
Yeah, but Arrival is so perfect because it's really about waiting for moments to happen when you know them. Yeah. Like, and I think also the fact that a kid had this terminal disease is very much like that. You know that this child is going to die, and you know what's going to happen. You know it obviously only on the onset of like the diagnosis. Yeah. But obviously, Amy Adams makes a decision. What we realize is that everything that we've seen in the beginning of the film is actually after the events of the alien invasion. Yeah. Invasion is not the right word, but like the alien presence.
Teaching.
Yeah, the teachings. The Buddha moment of the aliens. But, and everything's after that. And the relationship that she develops and has a child with, is with Ian Donnelly, who's the character who she meets. And we meet, subsequently.
And I just love how that came out.
That was amazing, dude.
Now, again,
the moment I was just like, oh, God.
Now, see, again, that ending, that extended ending of the montage, right?
I thought that was a little indulgent.
See, it was a bit indulgent.
I thought it was a little indulgent.
It was indulgent because it was so long.
It was long.
Now, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Again, typical short film move because you need to put a lot of information in a very short amount of time. Now, it takes like 10 times as long for somebody to say something than for you to just cut between a bunch of different images of it happening, right? So, again, in a short film, you would need to do that. Now, the fact that they did that here... While it was a bit indulgent, I loved it in the long run because so much of this movie, because of the fact that it's such an insulated movie from her perspective, all of the big revelations of this film were all happening in her head when she was by herself or talking to the aliens who she can't actually talk to, right? So it would be so contrived if she actually voiced out her inner monologue. Yeah. Because she never had anybody she could talk to about the thoughts going on in her head.
Exactly. And she doesn't ever.
The only time she actually sits down and explains anything is the whiteboard moment, which is a trope of these kind of films, but it was handled very well because it's a process-based whiteboard moment of breaking down a sentence, right? Now, the fact that ending whole thing was a visual montage, I thought was great because this movie is a perfect example of show, don't tell. She doesn't she never tells you anything of how she's figuring this stuff out.
This could not even have been the truth,
Yeah, absolutely. And so everything is just shown to us in a
particular order
at the moment that the director wants it to happen, which is what makes this incredibly compelling and not just like, I need to break this down for you because I realize it's getting really complicated, which is the problem with Interstellar. Yeah. Every 20 minutes, somebody has to sit you down and catch you up to what you're seeing.
I feel like that's Nolan's thing, though. I mean, like,
that is his thing.
He's like, he wants you to be confused as
Right, absolutely. And that's a very, like you said, it's his thing, it's a very intentional thing. And in this case, I preferred this because it's so refreshing, because it's far more nimble footed. You need to have, it's a very graceful balancing act, which is incredibly hard to do. Interstellar was not able to do that. It did other things amazingly. I know we're not hating on Interstellar. We're just getting at Interstellar is a lot more clunky with its construct than this movie.
Oh yeah, I think that the third act of Interstellar fails. Like I think it just fails because it's a lot of science grounding and then throwing it out in the wind. Right?
You build this up on science. Like, okay, cool, I like where you're heading, and now let's just get into imagination.
Love can travel across the universe. Which I'm a huge fan of. Love can travel over the universe. I'm a huge fan of that.
Yeah.
And this
time
movie
and place.
has exactly.
But you have a time and place for it.
You got to do it right, yeah. And this movie, I mean, and let me just put another perspective to it, is that, so this is still, this is adapted from a book. And I was really curious about the book, so I read a little bit about it. I mean, I haven't gotten around to reading it, but like, so in the book, and this is very interesting, is that the book is written in different tenses. Like, so there are bits in the beginning where the author's written it as present tense, which is with her daughter, but when she's talking about the aliens, it's in past tense. Then there's some tenses which it's only in the future. So just to kind of mimic because how else would you have to how do you do that? And
that's great.
I think that was fascinating.
That's absolutely
great.
That
was really cool.
That's absolutely great.
So yeah, I also got the vibe that this is an adaptation. Like, it kind of it felt that way, that this has been taken from a science fiction story. Yeah, I mean, I kind of got, because
I had no idea it was
I'll tell you why. Yeah. It's only because of the way that it's presented in this whole non-linear way.
Sure.
It's a very big trope of writing also, that you do a chapter from say somebody's perspective, then you do another one, then maybe one is set slightly earlier, or so I mean that has happened before. It's happened in some of the most popular books.
Yeah.
So I felt that vibe also coming on. But I mean, needless to say, this movie is completely
That being said, that's an interesting point, because that being said, one person that does that really, really well on film, that whole thing of like the way a novel is told, where you like have a different chapter from different perspective and different times.
Right.
One person does that amazingly well is Tarantino. Because he breaks it down into chapters. He says part 1, part 2, part 3.
He puts chapters on
and they're not necessarily in a linear timeline.
Yeah.
They're all over the place.
Which is why Pulp Fiction is like the most
right,
famous
exactly.
film of
And
that.
so this is doing that, but again, the short film approach of like, I'm not going to explain anything to you.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do what I want to do, and you will figure this out when I've just shown you enough images that you can piece this together. Nobody is ever going to explain to you that this is what was happening then, and this is how I've realized this is the way this works.
Yeah.
Whenever she explains anything to anybody, she's only getting you so far. Like, she's getting like halfway there.
Yeah.
Because she just physically can't get you the rest of the way. Like, you just need to catch up to her by just seeing her experiences.
And I think the other really cool thing about this is, apart from, just like, she doesn't say anything, is the fact that, in this movie, it's like you're watching it from, it felt like a very director's kind of intention. Like, I'll just talk about two failings which I thought were there in the film. Mm-hmm. One was this whole geopolitical plot. It becomes the main part of it for a bit. Mm-hmm. And there's one section which, they kind of haze over a bit, which is this whole plot point of everyone's about to attack these alien ships, and the Chinese, what do you call it? The Republic of China is the leader, the ruler, who's basically Rush Hour dad. The dad in Rush Hour.
Okay.
He basically says, he tells her, okay, so basically, the only reason why I stopped my mission is because of, you told me my wife's dying words, which is this, and she kind of explains and so she remembers it back in her own head, and then so I thought that was a bit, I thought that was fine, but just calling the dude, and she gives him she basically calls him and says this is what, and I don't know how that would have convinced him otherwise. I'm not interested in how important it is in that way.
That's the thing. That's the fiction.
Yeah.
The fiction in this movie is so tiny.
Yeah.
It's such a small fragment of what makes up this movie, because it's such a sound thing. I totally see what you mean. Like, it is like one of those tiny loophole areas where, like, I don't get it.
It's just like, okay, sure.
Yeah, it's what's bugging you, and I think what's bugging me as well is that our suspension of disbelief is so fragmented. It's not a constant thing. It's like if the hyperdrive is destroyed, is the plot is what's driving the plot for 2 hours, that's fine, because it's a consistent thing. I have to constantly believe that the hyperdrive is messing up. But the fact that it's just one isolated scene
moment in that
for like 30 seconds, that's what's bugging me. Which is the best place to be in.
Sure,
I would say,
I mean, and yeah, exactly. I mean, the movie is so powerful that this is my point, that I was like dismissed it immediately. I was just like, okay, cool, that's fine. I think that was one part which kind of dragged. And like I said, the ending I felt was a little longer than necessary, but it earned it. Like, it completely earned it in the fact that, and the only I think giveaway to the fact that I would have loved if this movie was completely ambiguous, and you don't know whether she's actually perceiving time that way, or maybe she's going crazy because of her PTSD.
I'm actually glad it wasn't ambiguous.
Yeah.
I'm actually very glad.
I know, but like, so the only two things I give it away is that one is that where she's actually teaching, and she says the gift is the language, and the gift is the language that gives you the perception of time. And the second thing is, I just want to get into one of my favorite scenes in the movie, because I'm just a nerd, is the fact where she gets abducted and going to the space time. She finally meets the heptapods after the Castello. I love how they use subtitles. Did that creep you out a bit? Did that creep you out? Like, so I saw this without subtitles. Obviously, it was the greatest thing.
Likewise.
And just when they spoke, it just appeared and then just disappeared. And I just thought that was so insanely creepy. And I was just like, whoa, that's weird.
Also, black subtitles. You don't see those every day.
Black subtitles. And it was strange, and it just added to the eeriness, plus the score, which is beautiful, hauntingly beautiful.
There's a great Song Explode episode on it.
Oh yeah, I must check it out. Okay, cool. And I'll be surprised though. Just to get back to this, I would be very surprised if this movie, I would really want it to win something. Like, just to...
It really deserves.
It deserves a lot more than I feel like it's being... Like, nobody has watched this movie. I keep saying, hey, have you guys watched Arrival? It's insane. But the kind of attention this movie would have gotten if it was a Chris Nolan film would have been insane,
absolutely.
But this is, just a new movie, kind of indie-ish sound. But it's not at all. It's huge budget. It's like, whatever. It's like a normal, like 60 million.
Yeah.
And just, and no one's seen it.
Well, so it was one of the sweethearts from Tribeca earlier in the year, and I know that the Pop Culture Happy Hour guys, they saw it back then, and they said it's averaging like an 8.5 everywhere.
It's already in the top 250 in IMDb. So,
and so the Pop Culture Happy Hour guys, they called it. They said that this movie will make waves. They're hedging bets on it winning something or the other.
It should be nominated. I don't
know if I'd bet on it winning, unfortunately, just because of the climate.
Genre.
It just what does tend to win and what tends to not win. But I would love for this to win everything it gets.
Yeah, having said that though, I feel like it'll be one for the nerds,
because it gets you in the fields in a very specific way that very few films do.
Scam,
Very few films hit you this way.
I think Gravity, having won the Oscar, I think it has opened up a better kind of place for.
But that's the thing. Like, if freaking Gravity can win this.
No, I loved Gravity. I still think Gravity is a fantastic film. I mean, in a way that is, again, even very human. It's not science fiction, that movie. It's a set in space. Yeah. But I mean, obviously, I'll take it.
Yeah.
And similarly to how Sandra Bullock is the principal character, like this movie is like Amy Adams redeems herself so much after Batman vs Superman.
Mother of God.
I loved Amy Adams. I always have this ever since I seen Enchanted. I even have seen that movie. I love that movie. She's great in it. And I always thought, like, after watching BVS, I was like, she's not the right choice for Lois Lane. I think that kind of like put a bad taste in my mouth for Amy Adams. But like, this movie is just brought it all back.
Tiny little hilarious moment was when they're on the helicopter when they all meet for the first time.
Yeah.
You're looking at Forrest Whitaker, Jeremy, and her. Yeah. And she's wearing a pair of headphones that have the words DC on them.
Oh, yeah, sweet.
I was just
nice.
Like,
well done. No, but man,
anyway.
it's great to see Hawkeye meet Lois Lane. Cool. So guys, definitely check out our t-shirt and please buy it, please wear it, flaunt it, be proud to be a nerd. It's a great thing, especially in today's world. And write to us. Where can they find us online, Jishnu?
On the onlines at geekfruit.in. You can find us on social media at geekfruithq. You can email us at contactgeekfruit@gmail.com, or if you go to the website, just click the little contact button.
Yeah, there you go. And our website has got a bunch of new articles up. Please read them and share them. And that's it. Cool.
Who's the guy that emailed us, by the way? The best email?
I want to say it's Nitin Gautam. Nitin,
yeah.
Best email ever.
Send more,
please. Cool. See you later, you nerds.
Geek Fruit is an IVM production, and if you happen to like our show, then you're probably going to like the Poudcast, a Bombay-based food and culture podcast hosted by the Daily Pow. So if you want to check out cool stuff in Bombay, you know where to listen.
Excuse me, भैया. Excuse me.
बोले मैडम.
मेन्यू में क्या है?
मेन्यू में सीन अनसीन है, पॉडकास्ट है, ऑन कोर्स है, साइरस है, मेड इन इंडिया, रीडिस्कवरी प्रोजेक्ट, एम्पावरिंग सीरीज, सेक्स वैक्स है, IVM लाइक्स है, सिंप्लीफाइड है, कीपिंग इट क्वियर है, टिंग्स एंड डेस्टिनेशंस है, माय नेबर सकरबर्ग है और द फैन गराज है. आपको क्या चाहिए?
एक बार रिपीट कर देंगे क्या?
रिपीट नहीं करता हम. आप जाओ ivmpodcast.com पे और सुनो ये सब, या फिर डाउनलोड करो उनका ऐप. सब आपकी उंगलियों पे.